The Rockford Fire Department opened the doors to one of its stations to the community today, inviting families to learn more about fire safety as part of National Fire Prevention Week. First responders focused this year's campaign on the safe use of lithium-ion batteries, which power everything from electronic scooters to laptops and e-bikes. Families toured the station, met firefighters and Sparky the fire dog, plus learned basic fire safety skills through hands-on demonstrations. The department hopes events like this build stronger relationships with the public while sharing life-saving information. The department's chief of training and fire prevention says having an escape plan now can make a big difference in the first moments of a fire.
This year, we want to make sure that people are being very careful with their lithium batteries, storing them properly, only using the chargers that those come with, things like that. One of the things that's really cool about an event like this is it gives us a chance to interact with the public when things aren't going haywire.